Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a story from Her Silent Revenge, and it has taken a turn you absolutely didn't expect. Let's begin.
During Sunday dinner at my mother's log cabin, my sister raised her glass and scoffed, "You're always invisible, aren't you? If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would notice." My mother ignored me. My fiancé remained silent, merely shrugging. I set my napkin down, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Then I accept the challenge." They didn't know that that very night I would reveal a disgusting secret of theirs, a truth powerful enough to burn this family to ashes. The next morning, I vanished, not to run away, but to prepare for a truth they would never forget. I'm so grateful you're here. Now, I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from? Comment below with your location. I love seeing this community grow and hearing from each of you. Just so you know, this story blends real lessons with some fictional elements for storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to actual names or settings is unintentional, but the takeaway message, that's absolutely something I hope serves you. Sunday dinners at Mom's house were tradition. This one would be the last. I pulled up to the Craftsman Bungalow in Hyde Park just after 6. The same house where I'd grown up, where Sunday dinners weren't optional. The porch light glowed warm against the March dusk. Everything looked the same. I had no idea I was about to walk away from it all. Connor's Tesla sat in the driveway. He'd beaten me here. I'd insisted on driving separately, earning a lecture about couple appearances, but I'd held firm. Something in my gut said I'd need an escape route. Turns out my gut was right. I grabbed the strawberry tart from Central Market, Mom's favorite, and walked up the stone path. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Julia, finally. My sister Sienna stood there in yoga pants and an expensive-looking sweater. At 25, she'd perfected effortless luxury. "We've been waiting forever." "I'm 5 minutes late." "Still late." She air-kissed near my cheek. "Love the tart. Mom's going to pretend she's too full but eat half anyway." Inside smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary. Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Ellen Morgan, 63, silver, Bob, the kind of woman who never raised her voice, but could devastate you with a disappointed sigh. "Sweetheart," she said, then looked past me. "Where's Connor?" "Already here. His car's outside." "Oh, good. He's helping Sienna set the table." She took the tart. How thoughtful. Sienna hadn't brought anything I noticed. She never did. In the dining room, Connor was setting out silverware while Sienna directed him. My fiancé, 32, software engineer, too handsome for his own good, looked up when I entered. "Hey, babe." Quick kiss. His lips were cold. "Thought you'd never get here. Traffic on Lamar." "There's always traffic on Lamar." Before I could respond, another voice cut in. "Julia Morgan, don't you look lovely?" Beverly Martin, family friend, church volunteer, Hyde Park's news network. She sat at the table with wine already in hand, wearing a floral blouse that screamed opinions. "Hi, Beverly. Didn't know you'd be joining." "Last-minute invitation," Mom called. "Beverly's husband is out of town." "Of course." Sunday dinner was apparently a consolation prize. We settled around the table. Mom brought out chicken roasted potatoes, green beans. Everything perfect as always. Connor sat beside me, Sienna across Beverly at the end, like an elderly referee, Mom at the head. "Let's say grace," Mom said. We bowed our heads. Mom thanked God for family blessings, togetherness. I tried to focus, but Connor's phone buzzed during prayer. He tensed. "Amen." Plates passed. Conversation started. "So," I said carefully, "Connor and I have been talking about next steps." Mom's fork paused. "Next steps?" "Yeah, we've been together 2 years, and we're thinking, oh my God, you guys." Sienna leaned forward. "I totally forgot. I hit 50,000 followers today. 50,000 brands are reaching out constantly. I might quit teaching yoga and do influencing full-time." Mom's face lit up. "Honey, that's wonderful. Isn't that wonderful, Julia?" "It's great," I said automatically. "Tell them about the skincare company," Beverly prompted. Sienna's smile widened. "There's this organic line from LA. They'll pay me $3,000 for one post." $3,000. Mom pressed her hand to her chest. "Sienna, that's incredible." Connor nodded. "That's solid income." I tried again. "Actually, I just landed a branding project with a skincare startup too. Luna Skincare." "Oh, that's nice, dear." Mom said, eyes still on Sienna. "Are you going to do it? The sponsorship?" Obviously. Sienna sipped wine. It's easy money. I set down my fork. The Luna Project is interesting because they want to focus on ingredient transparency. That reminds me, Beverly interrupted, turning to Sienna with a conspiratorial smile. You look radiant tonight. Is there something you want to share? Sienna's cheeks flushed. She glanced at Mom, then me. Maybe soon. What did that mean? Mom and Beverly exchanged a knowing look, some understanding I wasn't part of. Connor's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, guilt-fear, and turned it face down. Everything okay? I asked quietly. Yeah, work stuff. On a Sunday. Tech doesn't sleep, babe. I wanted to push, but Sienna was talking about a Tulum yoga retreat. Mom hung on every word. Beverly nodded enthusiastically. Connor checked his phone under the table, and I sat there fork in hand, feeling like a ghost at my own family dinner. This was normal. This was always how it went. Sienna shone. I faded. Mom gave her warmth, gave me politeness. Tonight, I'd wanted to talk about Connor's proposal plans, about our future, about something that mattered, but nobody asked. The conversation flowed around me like water around stone. I tried once more to mention the Luna Project, but Sienna was showing photos, and Beverly was commenting, and Connor was typing under the table. I might as well have been invisible. Then Sienna said it. After finishing some story about a brand deal during a brief lull, she looked at me, really, looked at me, and tilted her head. You know what's funny? Her voice was light, playful. If you disappeared tomorrow, nobody would even notice. The table went still. I stared at her. That's a weird thing to say. She laughed. I'm just being honest. You're always so forgettable. Even when you're here, you're not really here. Mom made a soft sound. Sienna, that's enough. But her voice was weak. She didn't mean it. Connor shifted. Babe, she didn't mean it that way. I did, though. Sienna leaned back unbothered. You're so independent, Jules. You don't need any of us. Right. That's your whole thing. Something inside me crystallized, not broke, crystallized, into perfect sharp clarity. I set down my napkin, stood, picked up my wine glass, and raised it. Challenge accepted. Sienna blinked. What? You said nobody would notice if I disappeared. Let's test that theory. Mom's face went pale. Julia, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. My voice was calm, eerily calm. I'm being honest. For once in this family, I'm being completely honest. I grabbed my purse. Connor stood. Jules, come on. She was joking. Was she? He didn't answer. I looked at each of them. Mom hand pressed to her mouth. Beverly eyes wide. Sienna annoyed I'd made it about me. Connor who wouldn't meet my eyes. Thank you for dinner, Mom. I walked out. Down the hall, through the door, down the path to my car. Behind me, voices, Connor calling Mom, saying something about tempers. I didn't turn around. I got in my car, started the engine, pulled out. My phone rang immediately. Connor's name, then Mom's, then Connor again. I ignored them all. My hands shook on the wheel, but my mind was strangely clear. Like fog I didn't know was there had suddenly lifted. I drove through Hyde Park, past the park where I'd played, past the elementary school, past memories of a life that never quite fit. And as I drove, one thought crystallized. I didn't know it yet, but disappearing was exactly what I needed to do, and I'd be gone by morning. I came home to silence. Connor wasn't back yet. Good. I needed the quiet to think, to process what had just happened at that Sunday dinner table. Sienna's words still rang in my ears. You've always been invisible anyway, Julia. 27 years of sisterhood, and that's what she really thought of me. I dropped my keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, the one Connor and I had picked out together at that artisan market in South Congress. We'd laughed that day, debating between the blue glaze and the green. I'd chosen blue. He'd said it reminded him of my eyes. Now I looked at that bowl and wondered how many other things in this apartment were built on lies I just hadn't discovered yet. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Julia, please don't take what Sienna said personally. She's going through a lot right now. Can we talk tomorrow? I stared at those words. Don't take it personally. How else was I supposed to take it? But I didn't reply. I couldn't find words that wouldn't make everything worse. I texted Connor instead. Where are you? We need to talk. No response. Not even the read receipt I was used to seeing pop up within seconds. I tried again 10 minutes later. Connor, seriously, tonight was bad. I need you. Still nothing. The apartment felt too big, suddenly too empty. I walked through the living room we decorated together past the gallery wall of our photos, hiking in Big Bend that weekend in New Orleans. My 30th birthday party where he'd surprised me with a mariachi band. Every image showed me smiling next to him, next to Sienna, surrounded by the life I thought I had. I couldn't sit still. I paced the kitchen, made tea I didn't drink, opened the fridge and closed it without taking anything. The clock on the microwave glowed green 10:47 p.m. Where was he? By 11, I was angry. By 11:30, I was worried. By midnight, I was in that dangerous territory where anger and worry blend into something that makes you do things you normally wouldn't do. I went into the bedroom. Connor's side of the bed was still unmade from this morning, his pillow carrying the indent of his head. His nightstand held the usual items, a book he'd been reading for 3 months, his charging cable, a glass of water, and there, his Apple Watch. He almost never forgot his watch. It tracked his runs, his workouts, his entire fitness obsession. He must have been in such a rush to leave this morning that he'd left it behind. I shouldn't have picked it up. I knew that even as my fingers closed around it. We'd always had a policy, trust, privacy, respect. I'd never snooped through his phone, never checked his messages, never been that girlfriend who needed to verify every interaction. But tonight, after Sienna's words, after the way Mom had jumped to defend her after Connor's complete radio silence, something in me cracked. I tapped the watch screen. It lit up immediately, no passcode. Why would there be, "We trusted each other"? The message notifications were right there on the display. I didn't even have to scroll. Sienna, where are you? We need to figure this out. Sienna, Connor, answer me. Sienna, we can't keep avoiding this conversation. Sienna, about the baby. The world stopped. I read that line again and again, about the baby. My sister's name, those 4 words, on my fiancé's watch. My hands started shaking so hard I nearly dropped the device. I sat down on the edge of the bed because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. There had to be an explanation. There had to be some reasonable context that would make this make sense. But even as I tried to construct innocent scenarios in my mind, I knew. Something deep in my gut, some instinct I'd been ignoring, suddenly screamed the truth I'd been too trusting to see. I set the watch down carefully like it might explode. Then I just sat there in the dim light of our bedroom, surrounded by the life we'd built. The framed photo of his proposal at Lady Bird Lake, my wedding binder on the dresser. The paint samples still taped to the wall because we'd been planning to redecorate after the honeymoon. Everything looked the same as it had this morning. But nothing was the same. Nothing would ever be the same again. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my tea to go cold in the kitchen. Long enough for my phone to die because I forgot to plug it in. Long enough for the initial shock to fade into something harder. Something that felt like ice forming in my chest. The sound of keys in the lock jolted me back to reality. I glanced at the clock, 1:53 a.m. I heard Connor's footsteps in the hallway, slow and heavy. He stopped when he reached the bedroom doorway. I didn't turn around. I couldn't look at him yet. Julia. His voice was rough, tired. We need to talk. Yeah. I was surprised by how steady I sounded. We do. He came into the room and I finally turned to face him. He looked terrible, hair disheveled shirt, wrinkled eyes red like he'd been crying or drinking or both. Part of me wanted to go to him to fix whatever was wrong. But I stayed exactly where I was sitting on the edge of our bed with his Apple Watch on the nightstand between us. His eyes flicked to the watch. Something crossed his face, resignation maybe, or relief that he didn't have to be the one to start this conversation. I saw the messages, I said, from Sienna. He nodded slowly. Didn't try to deny it, didn't ask which messages, didn't pretend to be confused. He just nodded. She's pregnant, he said quietly. 2 + 2. I'd been doing that math since I saw those messages, but I hadn't wanted to complete the equation. Now Connor was handing me the answer, and I still didn't want it. Is it yours? My voice cracked on that last word. I watched his face, desperate for him to laugh, to look confused, to say, of course, not to give me literally any response except the one his silence was giving me. But Connor just stood there looking at me with those red-rimmed eyes, his mouth opening and closing, like he was trying to find words that didn't exist. And in that silence, in the space where his denial should have been, I got my answer. The silence stretched between us like a chasm I couldn't cross. Connor stood in the doorway of our bedroom, keys still clutched in his hand, looking like a man who'd just been caught. Not surprised, caught. Like he'd been waiting for this moment, dreading it. And now that it was here, he didn't know what to do with it. I picked up his Apple Watch from the nightstand and set it on the coffee table in the living room. Screen up. Sienna's messages still glowing in the dark like accusations. "Sit down," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded cold, flat, like someone else was speaking through me, someone harder than I'd ever been. Connor moved slowly, like he was afraid I might shatter if he moved too fast. He sank onto the couch across from me, head dropping into his hands. I stayed standing. I needed the height advantage. I needed to feel like I had some kind of control in a situation where everything was spinning wildly out of my grasp. "How long?" I asked. He didn't look up. His shoulders hunched forward, making him look smaller than I'd ever seen him. "It was only once. One time. December 12th. Your mom's birthday party. December 12th. I remembered that night with painful clarity. I'd been so excited about it, Mom's 60th birthday, the whole family together. I'd spent hours making her favorite lemon cake from scratch, the one with the cream cheese frosting she loved. Then halfway through dinner, my stomach had turned violent. I'd spent the rest of the evening curled up in bed with a bucket next to me, feeling like I was dying. Connor had stayed behind to help clean up. He'd come home around 2 in the morning, smelling like wine and dishwasher soap. He'd climbed into bed beside me, stroked my hair, whispered that he hoped I felt better. I'd thought it was sweet, thoughtful, the kind of thing a good partner does. "You stayed to help clean up," I said, slowly letting each word land. He nodded, still not meeting my eyes. I was drunk, really drunk. Sienna kept refilling my glass, kept touching my arm, kept saying things. "Don't blame her." I cut him off. My hands were clenched so tight my nails were digging into my palms. "You're a grown man, Connor. You have agency. You make choices." "You're right," he said quietly. "I made the choice. I slept with your sister." Hearing him say it out loud made it real, made it something I couldn't unsee or unfeel or pretend might be a misunderstanding. My hands started shaking. I pressed them against my thighs to steady them. "Where?" I asked. He looked up confused. "Where did it happen?" I clarified. I needed to know, needed to picture it so I could understand exactly how my entire life had fallen apart while I was home sick and trusting. "Your mom's house, the living room. The living room. The same living room where we'd had Sunday dinners for 7 years, where I'd sat on that cream-colored couch just hours ago listening to Sienna make jokes about me disappearing, where Mom had served coffee in her good china, and Beverly had asked if there was any news to share. They'd done it there, on Mom's couch, or maybe the floor. Maybe against the bookshelf where Mom kept all our childhood photos, me and Sienna smiling in matching dresses, arms around each other like we were actually sisters who loved each other. "My sister," I said, slowly letting each word land like a stone. "In my mother's house, while I was homesick trusting you." "Julia, I'm so sorry." "How did she get pregnant?" I interrupted. "Didn't you use protection?" He flinched. "She said she was on birth control, and you believed her." I wasn't thinking clearly. The word came out sharp, bitter. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly freezing despite the warmth of the apartment. "When did you find out about the baby?" 3 days ago, he said. "She texted me." 3 days. My voice cracked. I couldn't hold the calm anymore. "You've known for 3 days and you didn't tell me." "I didn't know how." "You use words, Connor." I was shouting now, months of feeling invisible, finally erupting. "You say, Julia, I slept with your sister and she's pregnant." See, not that hard. 4 years together, and you couldn't find those words. "I wanted to figure out what to do first," he said weakly. "Figure out what she wanted you mean." I shot back. "What about what I want? Did that factor into your decision-making at all, or was I just as invisible to you as I am to everyone else?" "She wants to keep the baby," he said. The words tumbled out fast like he'd been holding them in too long and they were burning his throat. She wants us to be together. The room tilted. I reached for the back of the couch to steady myself, my vision swimming. Us, you and her. That's what she said, Connor said quickly. But I told her no. I told her I love you. I told her you're the one I want to marry, that we have plans that, after you slept with her. My voice was hollow now. All the anger had drained out, leaving something worse behind a vast, echoing emptiness. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk, Connor. A mistake is sending an email to the wrong person. You fucked my sister. The word hung in the air between us, ugly and true. Connor flinched like I'd physically struck him. I know, he whispered. I know there's no excuse. But Julia, please. I love you. I want to marry you. We can get through this. Get through this. I laughed and it sounded hysterical, even to my own ears unhinged. Connor, you got my sister pregnant. There's no getting through that. There's no couples therapy exercise that fixes this. I'll support the child financially, he said desperately. But I don't want Sienna. I don't want any kind of relationship with her. I want you. I stared at him. At this man I'd loved for 4 years. This man I'd planned a wedding with, picked out china patterns with, talked about baby names with on lazy Sunday mornings. He looked small suddenly, pathetic, like a stranger wearing Connor's face. Get out, I said. Julia, please, let's just talk. There's nothing to talk about. My voice was steady again, final. You betrayed me with my sister, the person who's supposed to be my family, my support system. You both chose to destroy me. It was one time. I don't care if it was 1 time or 100 times, I said. You chose her. In that moment when it mattered, you chose her over me, and that tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. He opened his mouth, closed it again. His shoulders slumped in defeat. Finally, where do we go from here? You go wherever you want, I said. I need you to leave. Now. This is my apartment too. Fine, I'll leave. Give me tonight to pack my things. You can have it back tomorrow. He stood up slowly, grabbing his keys from the table where I deliberately placed them. I'll get a hotel, he said quietly. But Julia, don't make any decisions tonight. Just sleep on it. Please. We can talk more in the morning when we've both calmed down. I didn't answer. I couldn't promise him anything. I couldn't even look at him anymore. He stood there for another long moment, waiting for something I couldn't give him. Forgiveness, understanding hope, some sign that this wasn't the end. Then he turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him with a sound like finality. I stood in the silence, looking around at our apartment. The photos on the walls showing us happy and in love. The coffee mugs in the sink from this morning's routine. The throw pillows I'd agonized over, choosing at 3 different stores. Our life. All of it felt like a lie now. My phone buzzed, Mom calling. I let it ring until it stopped. How long had she known Beverly's comment at dinner echoed in my head? Any news to share? Had they all been in on it? Had I been the only one at that table who didn't know my sister was carrying my fiancé's child? I thought about Sienna's smirk when she said I'd disappear without anyone noticing. I thought about Mom's silence when I tried to talk about my Sheffield pitch. I thought about Connor's phone buzzing all through dessert and the way he'd looked guilty every time. The pieces were there. I just hadn't been looking at them right. This wasn't just about Connor making a drunken mistake. This wasn't just about Sienna getting pregnant. There was something else, something deliberate, something planned. And tomorrow I was going to find out what. I didn't sleep. By dawn I was in my car heading to Sienna's place. The sky over Austin was that pale, washed-out blue that comes right before sunrise. The city still quiet, except for a few early runners on the trail. I drove down Lamar with my hands tight on the wheel, my mind racing faster than the speedometer. The drive from Hyde Park to East 6th took 12 minutes. I spent every one of them rehearsing what I'd say, trying to find words big enough to hold the rage burning through my chest. Nothing felt adequate. At 7:15, I pulled up outside her building, one of those new luxury apartments with floor-to-ceiling windows and a doorman who wasn't at his post yet. I took the stairs 2 at a time and stood outside her door, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I knocked. Hard. 3 sharp raps that echoed down the empty hallway. She opened it wearing yoga pants and a loose tank top, her belly, just visible underneath, small but unmistakable. About 12 weeks, I calculated. 3 months, right on schedule. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked like she'd just woken up, but her eyes were alert. Sharp. "Julia," she said, doing a decent impression of surprise. "What are you doing here?" I pushed past her into the apartment. "We need to talk." She closed the door, slowly leaning against it. I noticed her hand went instinctively to her stomach, protective and deliberate. "I figured Connor would tell you eventually." "Why?" I turned to face her. The apartment was immaculate, white furniture, plants in every corner, framed photos of her at various influencer events. Everything carefully curated, everything perfect. She tilted her head, playing innocent. "Why what? Why did you sleep with him?" She moved to the couch and sat down, arranging herself carefully, one hand still resting on her stomach in a gesture that looked practiced, performative. Like she'd been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it. "Because I wanted to." That's not an answer. "It's the only answer you're getting." I stayed standing. My hands were shaking again, so I shoved them in my pockets. The apartment felt too warm, the air thick and close. "Was this deliberate? Were you trying to hurt me?" She hesitated. For just a second, I saw something flicker across her face, uncertainty maybe, or calculation. Her fingers drummed once against her knee. Then the mask slipped back into place. Yes, the honesty of it stunned me. I'd expected denial, excuses, crocodile tears, not this cold, unflinching admission. My breath caught. "Why?" I asked again, quieter this time. "Because I'm tired of you having everything," she said, simply like she was commenting on the weather. "What are you talking about? You're the one who gets everything. You always have been." She laughed sharp and bitter, the sound bouncing off the high ceilings. "Spoiled, sure. Mom loves me. Mom babies me. But you're the smart one, the successful one, the one who doesn't need anyone. You walk into a room and people respect you. I walk in and they ask me to take their photo. So you destroyed my relationship because you're jealous." "I wanted something that was yours," she said, her voice rising slightly. "Just once, I wanted to win." "This isn't a game, Sienna. Isn't it?" She leaned back, her posture suddenly relaxed, almost languid. "You're always so perfect. Perfect grades in school, perfect career trajectory, perfect Connor. What do I have 50,000 Instagram followers who'll forget me the second I stop posting? You chose that life. And you chose to make me feel small." She shot back, her voice suddenly raw. "Every achievement you rack up makes me look worse. Every time Mom brags about your Sheffield pitch or your latest client, I'm sitting there being reminded that I peaked at age 23 with a skincare sponsorship." "I never meant—" "You don't have to mean anything," she interrupted. "You just have to exist, and that's enough to remind everyone that I'm not as good as you, that I never will be." The words hung between us, heavy and bitter. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but something in her face stopped me. This wasn't about logic. This was about years of resentment I'd never even noticed building. The apartment felt too small suddenly, too hot. I crossed to the window, needing air, needing space. Below East 6th was starting to wake up a delivery truck, a woman walking her dog. Normal life happening while mine fell apart. "Does Mom know?" I asked, still facing the window. "Of course she knows." I turned around slowly. "She knows you slept with Connor. She knows you're pregnant. Yes, and she supports me." The room tilted. I reached for the back of the couch to steady myself. "She supports you after you wrecked." "She understands that I needed this," Sienna said, her voice maddeningly calm. "That I needed him. You don't actually think Connor's going to leave me for you." She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something I didn't. He already did. He just hasn't told you yet. He said he loves me. He said that. But he's about to be a father. Father to my baby. That connects us forever. Through birthdays and holidays and first days of school. You really think you can compete with that? This is insane. Is it? She stood up, moved closer. I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that Connor had probably helped her pick out. Or is it finally my turn? Your turn for what? To be the one who matters. The one people care about. Mom said she'll help with the baby. She's already talking about setting up the nursery in her house. Connor will come around once the baby's here. And you'll just disappear, like you always do. I don't disappear. You're good at it, she said, becoming invisible, fading into the background. After all, you're not even... She stopped, caught herself mid-sentence, her eyes widening slightly. I took a step toward her, my pulse spiking. I'm not even what? Nothing. She turned away, suddenly evasive. Sienna finished the sentence. She moved back to the couch, picking up her phone, setting it down again. Nervous gestures I'd never seen from her before. Ask Mom. This isn't my secret to tell. My heart was pounding so hard I felt dizzy. Yesterday at dinner, Beverly said something about biological daughter. What did that mean? Sienna looked genuinely surprised that I'd caught that detail. Her mask slipped again, just for a moment. You really don't know... Know what? My voice was barely a whisper now. Ask Mom, she repeated firmer this time. She owes you the truth. Sienna, leave Julia. Go talk to Mom. She owes you an explanation. She opened the door, holding it wide, waiting. I stood there, frozen, trying to piece together what she wasn't saying. You're not even what? Not even her sister. Not even part of this family. The pieces were there, floating just out of reach, refusing to form a picture I could understand. Get out, Sienna said quietly. Please. I walked to the door, stopped in front of her. Up close, I could see the faint dark circles under her eyes, the tension in her jaw. For a second, she looked less like a villain and more like someone who was just as lost as I was. Was any of it real? I asked. Did you ever actually care about me? She looked away, her hand tightening on the doorframe. Does it matter? It matters to me. Then I'm sorry. She said, her voice so quiet I almost missed it. For whatever that's worth. I left, walked down the stairs to my car, sat behind the wheel with my hands gripping tight knuckles white against the black leather. The sun was fully up now, flooding the street with harsh morning light. Biological daughter. The words echoed. What did that mean? I don't remember driving to Mom's house. One moment I was leaving Sienna's apartment, the next I was pounding on Mom's door. My hands were numb. My chest felt hollow. The drive from East 6th to Hyde Park should have taken 15 minutes, but I couldn't account for a single second of it. I just knew I needed answers. Now. Mom opened the door in her bathrobe hair, still wet from the shower. Julia, it's 9 a.m, what? I pushed past her into the house. You knew. She closed the door slowly, carefully, like she was buying time. Knew what? About Connor and Sienna. About the baby. She closed her eyes. Just for a moment, but long enough for me to see the truth written across her face. Yes. How long? Sienna told me 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. The words landed like punches. And you didn't tell me. It wasn't my place. Your daughter slept with my fiancé. I said, my voice rising. How is that not your place? You're both my daughters. Then why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you tell Sienna what she did was wrong? I did tell her. Did you make excuses for her like you always do? Mom moved to the couch and sat down heavily. This is complicated. It's not complicated, I said. It's betrayal, and you chose her. The living room looked exactly like it always did. Family photos on the mantel, the same Afghan mom had crocheted 15 years ago, draped over the armchair, everything in its proper place. Except nothing was in its proper place. Nothing had been for a long time. I was just now seeing it. Yesterday, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, Sienna said something. She called herself your biological daughter. What does that mean? Mom's face went pale, milk white like all the blood had drained out. She shouldn't have said that. But she did, so explain it. Julia, maybe you should sit down. I don't want to sit down. I want the truth. Mom was silent for a long time. I watched her hands twist together in her lap, watched her mouth open and close, watched her try to find words that didn't exist. Finally, "You're adopted." The room tilted. I reached for the wall to steady myself. "What?" "When you were 3, after your parents died." "My parents? You're not my mother." "I am your mother." She said, tears starting to fall. "I raised you. Who are they?" My voice cracked. "Who were my parents?" "My sister, Elena, and her husband, David. They died in a car accident on I-35, December 2000. You were in the back seat. You survived." I couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt too thick, like trying to inhale water. I sank onto the arm of the couch, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. "You've known my entire life that I was adopted, and you never told me." "I was going to tell you," Mom said, "when you were older. But then Sienna was born, and your father, your uncle, he said to wait. And we waited too long." 27 years, I said. The number felt enormous. "You waited 27 years." I know it was wrong. Why was Sienna always treated better? Why was I always second? Mom sobbed, actually sobbed, her shoulders shaking, because she's my biological daughter. "I know that's terrible. I know. But when she was born, your father, he just focused everything on her. And instead of fighting for you, I went along with it. Where is he now? He died 4 years ago, heart attack. I had no memory of a father figure. Only Mom and Sienna, the two of them against me. Always. Did you ever love me? Of course I did. Do you love me now?" The question hung between us, sharp and unavoidable. Mom struggled with it. I watched her face work through calculations, through years of buried truth, trying to surface. "Yes," she finally said, "but not the way I love Sienna, and I hate myself for it." At least she was honest. It should have hurt more hearing her say it out loud. Instead, I felt strangely numb, like some part of me had always known. "Why didn't you stop Sienna from sleeping with Connor?" I tried. "Not hard enough. You enabled her, like you always do. She needed support, and I didn't." My voice broke. "I didn't need support. You're stronger." "I'm not stronger," I said. "I just learned never to ask you for anything." The words came out cold factual. Mom flinched like I'd hit her. "Julia, you let her destroy my relationship because you love her more. Because she's yours and I'm not." "That's not—" "It is exactly that," I said. I stood up, moved toward the door. My body felt mechanical, like I was operating from somewhere outside myself. "When did you decide I didn't matter?" "I never decided that. You did. Maybe not consciously. But you chose her over me every single day for 27 years. And when she hurt me in the worst possible way, you still chose her. I chose both of you. You can't choose both when one of us is the victim and the other is the perpetrator, Mom. That's not how it works." I reached for the doorknob. Mom stood up, took a step toward me. "Where are you going?" "Far away, as far as I can get." "Julia, please." "You wanted to choose Sienna over me. Fine, you can have her. I'm done." "Don't do this. You did this, all of you." I opened the door. The morning sun was bright, harsh, making everything look too clear and sharp. Mom was crying in the doorway, reaching for me. I stepped back. "My whole life," I said quietly, "I thought something was wrong with me. I thought if I could just be good enough, smart enough, successful enough, you'd love me the way you loved her. But it was never about what I did. It was about what I am, not yours. You are mine." "No ain't I," I said. "I'm Elena's, and she's dead, so I'm nobody's." I walked to my car, got in, sat there with my hands on the wheel, staring at the house I'd grown up in. The house that had never really been mine. My phone buzzed. Connor calling. I declined it. Then Sienna, declined. Then Mom. I turned my phone off. I'd lost everything. But maybe I'd never really had anything to begin with. I sat in my car for 2 hours. Couldn't drive, couldn't think, just sat there. Outside Mom's house in Hyde Park, watching neighbors walk their dogs and check their mail, living their normal Tuesday lives, while mine collapsed into rubble. My phone was still off. I stared at the dark screen at my own reflection in the black glass and didn't recognize the person staring back. At some point, I must have turned it back on because at 11:30 it rang. "Riley," I answered without thinking. "Where are you?" Riley's voice was tight with worry. "I've been calling for hours. Outside Mom's house." "Stay there, I'm coming." 20 minutes later, Riley's Subaru pulled up behind me. The driver's door opened and Riley slid into my passenger seat, bringing the smell of hospital soap and coffee. We'd been friends since college through bad breakups and worse jobs, but Riley had never seen me like this. Didn't say anything at first, just looked at me with those steady brown eyes that had talked down dozens of panicking patients in the ER. "Tell me everything." So I did. Connor and Sienna, the affair on December 12th while I was homesick, the baby, Mom knowing for 2 weeks and saying nothing, the adoption I'd never been told about, Elena and David dying on I-35 when I was 3, Mom admitting she loved Sienna more because Sienna was hers and I wasn't. All of it came spilling out in a rush of words that didn't sound like mine. Riley listened without interrupting. When I finished, Riley was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Jesus Christ, that's so fucked up. I need to leave. Leave the car. Leave Austin. Leave all of this." Riley didn't argue, didn't try to talk me into staying and working things out like I was afraid someone would, just nodded once and asked, "Where?" "I don't know. California somewhere far." "San Diego's good," Riley said. "My cousin lives there. I can give you her contact info. She's cool. She'd help you get settled." "San Diego," I repeated. The word felt foreign in my mouth, like a language I didn't speak yet. "Okay, let's go pack." We drove to the apartment. I half expected to see Connor's car in the lot, but it wasn't there. Good. I didn't think I could face him again, not yet, maybe not ever. Riley followed me upstairs, and we stood in the doorway of the place I'd lived for 3 years. "Only take what's yours," Riley said. "Leave everything else." We worked systematically. Riley grabbed my suitcases from the closet while I started pulling clothes off hangers. Enough for a few weeks. Anything I really loved. The rest could stay. Connor could donate it or burn it or do whatever he wanted. In the bathroom, I swept my toiletries into a bag, left the expensive face cream Connor had bought me for Christmas. In the living room, I unplugged my laptop, wound up the charger, grabbed my work files from the desk drawer. Riley found a box in the kitchen and started packing my important documents. "You'll need these," Riley said, holding up my birth certificate. The irony wasn't lost on me, a birth certificate with Ellen's name on it when Ellen wasn't even my mother. I took it anyway. Added my passport, social security card, bank statements. At the bottom of my nightstand drawer, I found a thin silver necklace I didn't remember owning. "That was your grandmother's," Riley said, looking over my shoulder. "You showed it to me once. You said your mom gave it to you when you turned 18. My grandmother's. Elena's mother. A woman I'd never known whose daughter had died and left me behind. I closed my fist around the necklace and added it to my bag. Riley helped carry boxes down to my car. We made 3 trips. "What about furniture?" Riley asked. "Connor can keep it. I don't want anything from this life." We loaded the last box into my trunk. The car was packed tight. Everything I owned that mattered fit into a Honda Civic. That felt significant somehow. "What about money?" Riley asked. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I have $12,000 in personal savings. The joint account with Connor has $16,000. Half of that is mine, $8,000. I'll transfer it. I did the math right there on my phone, moved exactly $8,000 into my personal account, left exactly half of everything. Riley watched me do it and nodded approval. "What about work?" "I freelance. I can work from anywhere." "The lease? Month to month. I'll email the landlord." "You should leave a note," Riley said, "for legal reasons. So Connor can't say you just disappeared." I found the notepad we kept by the kitchen phone and wrote in quick, efficient strokes, "Connor, I know about Sienna and the baby. I know it was deliberate. I know Mom knew and chose her. I'm leaving Austin, don't look for me. I took half the joint account and my personal belongings. The lease is in your name, handle it yourself. We're done. Julia? I set my engagement ring next to the note. The diamond caught the light, throwing tiny rainbows across the counter. I'd never liked that ring much, anyway. Too flashy, too traditional, too much like something Connor thought I should want, rather than something I actually did. Riley read the note. Short and clear. Good. What about your mom? Riley asked. What about her? You're not going to tell her. She wanted Sienna. She can have her. Riley pulled me into a hug hard and tight. Call me when you get there. Every day, Julia. Promise me. I promise. And fuck them. All of them. You're going to be okay. Will I? The question came out smaller than I meant it to. Eventually, Riley said. But first you're going to fall apart, and that's okay too. I loaded the last box into my car at 9 p.m. The sun had set hours ago, Austin's skyline glowing against the dark Texas sky. Riley stood in the parking lot, arms crossed against the March chill. It's late. You could leave in the morning. If I stay one more night, I might not leave at all. Riley nodded. Fair enough. Drive safe. Stop if you're tired. Text me every few hours. I will. I love you, Julia. You're not alone. Thank you for everything. I got in my car and pulled out of the lot. Drove down familiar streets one last time past the coffee shop where Connor had planned to propose, past our favorite restaurant, past the park where we used to walk on Sunday mornings. Every place was a memory I was leaving in the rearview mirror. I merged onto I-10 West and pointed my car toward the horizon. The highway stretched out ahead of me, empty and dark and infinite. I passed the Austin city limits at 10:47 p.m., past Fredericksburg Junction, Ozona, small Texas towns that meant nothing to me, places to refuel and keep moving, past Balmeria Van Horn, the long, empty stretch before El Paso. At 2 in the morning, I crossed the state line into New Mexico. The sign glowed in my headlights. Welcome to New Mexico, land of enchantment. Behind me, Texas disappeared into darkness. I didn't have a plan, just a direction as far away as possible. 20 hours, 3 states, and a lifetime of distance. I arrived in San Diego as the sun was sinking into the Pacific. I'd driven straight through Arizona and across the desert, stopping only for gas and coffee and bathroom breaks at truck stops where no one looked at me twice. The city appeared suddenly after miles of nothing palm trees and exit signs, and the ocean stretching out forever on my right. I took the first exit I saw and pulled into the first Motel Pacific Inn, $89 a night. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and old carpet, but it had a bed, and I hadn't slept in 20 hours. I collapsed onto it, still wearing my clothes, my phone buzzing nonstop with messages I didn't read. Riley had been texting every few hours like I'd promised. Still alive. Yeah, I replied. Nothing more. For 3 days, I stayed in that motel room, showered exactly once, ate granola bars I'd bought at a gas station, stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow circles, and tried to remember who I was before Connor, before Sienna, before I learned my entire identity had been built on a lie. On day 4, Riley called, "You need to find an apartment. You can't live in a motel forever." I know. Today, Julia, get up, shower, find a place. I did what I was told. I drove through neighborhoods I'd researched online, North Park, Normal Heights, University Heights, places with walkable streets and coffee shops and people who looked like they'd also chosen this city to start over. In North Park, I found a for rent sign outside a small building on a quiet street, studio apartment, $1,650 per month. The landlord, Harold Murphy, met me within an hour. He was in his 70s, a retired Navy vet with kind eyes that had seen things. "You running from something or running towards something?" he asked as he showed me the 450 square foot space. "Does it matter?" "Not really. I just like to know who's living in my building." "Running from," I admitted. "Definitely running from." He nodded. "First month, last month, and deposit. That's $49.50 total." I hesitated. That was over a third of my savings. Harold watched my face. "You look like you need a break. $14.50 a month, no deposit, 1 month up front." "Why, because 30 years ago I was running too. Someone gave me a chance. I'm paying it forward. I almost cried. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Rent's due on the 1st. No exceptions. I moved in that afternoon. April 2024 was a blur of nothing. I set up an air mattress, unpacked exactly one suitcase, left everything else in cardboard boxes, ate instant noodles and cereal and whatever required the least effort, slept 12 to 14 hours a day, sometimes more, worked barely at all. I sent apologetic emails to clients. Personal emergency. We'll be in touch soon. Luna Skincare replied, take your time. We can push the deadline. Doubt, most days I didn't leave the apartment except for groceries. Even then I went at odd hours, 6 in the morning or 10 at night, to avoid people. Riley texted every day. Did you eat today? Did you shower? Are you okay? My answers? Yes, yes, no. Riley didn't push, just stayed present. I blocked Connor's number after he called 20 times the first week. Blocked Mom after 15. Blocked Sienna after she texted, Connor's miserable without you. Hope you're happy. I wasn't happy. I wasn't anything. I started searching for therapists online, looking for someone who specialized in family trauma and adoption. Most were booked out for weeks. Finally found Dr. Lisa Brennan, earliest available appointment 2 weeks out. I booked it. The days passed in monotone gray. I'd wake up, stare at the ceiling, wonder why I should bother getting out of bed, then not get out of bed. The studio apartment was sparsely furnished. Harold had left a small table and 2 chairs, but I'd bought nothing else. The boxes stayed packed. The walls stayed bare. I existed in the space without inhabiting it, like a ghost haunting my own life. Sometimes I'd stand at the window and watch people walk by on the street below. They looked purposeful, like they knew where they were going and why. I envied them. I'd lost the ability to understand purpose. Riley called instead of texting one afternoon toward the end of the month. Not a regular call, FaceTime. I almost didn't answer, but Riley would just keep calling. You look terrible, Riley said when my face appeared on screen. Thanks. Have you left your apartment this week? Oh, no. Julia, I love you, but you can't be a hermit forever. You need to do something. Like what? Anything. Go for a walk, work, exist like a human being. I am existing. You're surviving. There's a difference. Riley was right. I knew Riley was right, but I didn't know how to be a person anymore. The truth was, I'd spent 27 years being who other people wanted me to be. Julia, the good daughter. Julia, the successful consultant. Julia, the understanding girlfriend. All those versions of myself had been built on a foundation of lies: that Ellen was my mother, that Sienna was my full sister, that I belonged in that family. Now that foundation was gone and I didn't know what was left. Who was I without them? Without Connor? Without the life I'd built in Austin, I'd driven 20 hours and 1,500 miles to disappear, and I'd succeeded. But I was still invisible even to myself. I didn't know how to be visible. Didn't know how to take up space. Didn't know how to want things or need things or be things. Riley's face on my phone screen looked worried. Promise me you'll go outside tomorrow, just for 10 minutes. Walk around the block. Okay, I said. I didn't mean it. Julia, I promise. I meant it a little. I'm worried about you, Riley said quietly. I know. You're not alone. I know, I said again, but I felt alone, profoundly, devastatingly alone. I disappeared, but I was still invisible even to myself. Week 5. Riley's words echoed loud enough that I finally opened my front door. I woke up on a Tuesday, May 7th, and something in me cracked just enough to let light in. I put on real clothes, not pajamas, actual jeans and a t-shirt. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize the hollow-eyed woman staring back. But I opened the door. North Park in early May was beautiful jacaranda trees blooming, purple people, walking dogs, sunshine so bright it felt almost violent after weeks of living in the dark. I walked with no destination, just moving because Riley had been right. I couldn't stay in that apartment forever. I stopped on University Avenue, galleries and thrift shops and restaurants, life happening all around me. And then I saw it, Tidewater Coffee Company, an industrial space with garage doors, rolled open plants, everywhere the smell of fresh coffee so strong I could taste it. I walked in mostly because I desperately needed a bathroom, and human contact seemed bearable for approximately 5 minutes. Inside, exposed brick walls, local art covering every surface, communal tables full of people working on laptops. I ordered at the counter. Medium coffee, black. The young barista was friendly, smiling. For here or to go, here. The word surprised me. I sat at a corner table, my laptop bag with me, but still closed. Just held the coffee cup, felt the warmth. A woman approached, maybe early 50s, salt and pepper hair pulled back, direct gaze, wearing a paint-stained apron. "You're Julia Morgan." I startled. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know your work. Saw your Luna skincare strategy online 6 months ago. Clean thinking, strong positioning." "Oh, thank you." She sat down without waiting for an invitation. "I'm Colleen. I own this place." "Nice to meet you." "You're not from here." "Austin. I moved here recently." "Running from or running toward?" I almost laughed. "Why does everyone ask that?" "Because there are only 2 kinds of people who move to San Diego alone. Running from. Definitely running from." Colleen nodded. "You working?" "Not really. I'm taking some time off." "Want a job?" I blinked. "What?" "Rebrand my menu board, social media templates, maybe refresh the logo. I'll pay you $2,000. "That's low for a full branding package." "Then call it a favor." "You look like you need to do something other than stare at 4 walls. My defenses rose. "I'm fine." "You've been sitting here 45 minutes without touching your coffee. You're not fine." I looked down. The coffee was cold. I hadn't even noticed. "Why are you being nice to me?" "Because 4 years ago I was you. A corporate marketing director burning out 20 years in LA, woke up one day and couldn't remember why I was doing any of it. I moved here, opened this. And now I'm broke but happy. Different kind of broke than you, though. You're empty from the inside out." I should have felt offended. Instead, I felt seen. "What's the condition?" I asked. "One condition. Every week you bring me one personal project, something you create just for yourself, not client work, just creation." "Why?" "Because you've forgotten what it feels like to make something without needing someone else's approval. I can see it on your face." She was right. Everything I'd created for the past 5 years had been filtered through Connor's opinions, Mom's judgments, client requirements. I don't know if I remember how. Then you'll relearn. 1 week at a time. Deal. I considered it. $2,000 would stretch my savings a little further. More importantly, it was something to do. Deal. Deal on the job or deal on the condition? Both. Colleen stood up. "Good. Come back tomorrow. I'll show you the current branding. We'll talk timeline." "Thank you. I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm not easy to work with, but I'm honest." She walked back to the counter, started making someone else's drink, left me sitting there with my cold coffee and the first spark of something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not joy, not even happiness. Just forward motion. I stayed another hour, opened my laptop. Actually opened it, didn't just stare at the screen, started researching coffee shop branding trends, color palettes, typography. Made notes in the margins of my sketchbook, the one I'd packed but hadn't touched since Austin. When I finally left, the sun was lower, casting long shadows across University Avenue. I walked home slowly, noticing things. The mural on the corner building, the vintage bookstore, the taco shop with the line out the door, places I might actually go someday. That night, I sent an email to Luna Skincare. "Personal situation resolved. Ready to resume project if you're still interested." They replied within an hour. "Absolutely, we pushed the launch. Need final deliverables by end of June." I opened my laptop, really opened it, not just looked at it, and started sketching ideas for Colleen's menu board. Nothing polished, just rough concepts, font pairings, layout options, color schemes that felt like morning coffee and California sunshine. It had been 5 weeks since I'd created anything. My hands felt rusty, my eye uncertain. But I was working, actually working, not just surviving, but making something. Around midnight, I stopped and looked at what I'd done. It wasn't perfect, wasn't even good yet, but it was something. I texted Riley, went outside today, met someone, got a job. Riley replied immediately, Julia, that's amazing. Told you. You were right. I'm always right. Now keep going. I set my phone down and looked around my apartment. Still mostly unpacked, still bare walls and cardboard boxes, but it felt different somehow. Less like a tomb and more like a starting point. It was only a $2,000 project, but it was the first thing that felt like moving forward instead of just surviving. May turned into June, then July, 3 months in San Diego, and I was starting to feel like a person again. I finished Colleen's rebrand in 3 weeks menu board with a coastal aesthetic social media templates that felt breezy and inviting. A subtle logo refinement that kept the heritage while making it cleaner. Colleen reviewed everything, nodded once. Good, really good. Thank you. Where's your personal project? I'd forgotten, or been avoiding it. I haven't done one yet. Then you don't get paid. My stomach dropped. What? I was serious about that condition. Weekly personal work. That night panic drove me to my laptop. I opened a blank canvas and just let go. Abstract shapes, chaotic colors, no plan, just emotion pouring out. I showed Colleen the next day. What is it? She asked. I don't know. Pain, anger. All of it. It's honest, that's what matters. She handed me a check for $2,000. At the end of May, I had my first therapy session with Dr. Brennan. Her office was in North Park's small and bright walls covered in artwork. Tell me why you're here, she said. I told her everything: Connor, Sienna, the baby mom, the adoption. That's what happened. But why are you here? Because I don't know who I am anymore. Did you ever really know? The question stung because I couldn't answer it. I threw myself into Luna Skincare, complete brand strategy, consumer positioning, launch campaign framework, delivered 2 weeks early. The client was thrilled. This is exactly what we needed. We want to work with you again. Payment came through $18,000. My bank account after rent and expenses $26,000. For the first time in months, I could breathe financially. I started reaching out to old clients, carefully rebuilding freelance business. One responded, Verde Cosmetics, another Austin-based company. I didn't tell them I'd left. Project scope $15,000 for brand strategy. I accepted. Meanwhile, I kept my promise to Colleen: weekly personal projects. Week 6, an abstract painting. Week 7, a photo series of San Diego streets. Week 8, imaginary logo designs with no client, just for fun. Week 9, typography experiments. Colleen never critiqued, just looked and nodded. You're loosening up. Good. In June, I rented a desk at the Commons, a co-working space in North Park, $400 a month. There I met Maya, a freelance photographer in her mid-30s, and Chris, a content writer pushing 30. We started having lunch together. They didn't know my story, didn't ask. Just accepted me as Julia, brand strategist who moved from Texas. It was refreshing friendships with no past, no baggage. Maya invited me to a gallery opening. I went, talked to strangers, drank wine, left after an hour but felt proud I'd gone. Chris suggested a hiking trail. I drove there alone, walked in silence, took photos I'd never show anyone. Small steps, but steps. Therapy with Dr. Brennan continued. You're processing betrayal, she said in our 6th session. But have you processed loss? What loss? Your biological parents. You were 3 when they died. Then you lost your adoptive family, too. I never thought of it that way. I don't remember them. My real parents. Grief doesn't require memory, it requires acknowledgement. The words sat heavy in my chest for days. I'd spent so much energy being angry at Ellen and Sienna and Connor that I'd never stopped to mourn Elena and David. People I'd never known but who'd given me life. People who'd died in a car crash on the I-35 with me in the back seat. I'd survived. They hadn't. And somewhere in that survival was a 3-year-old girl who'd lost everything and learned early not to need anything from anyone. Dr. Brennan gave me homework, write a letter to Elena. I tried 3 times and couldn't finish. The The words felt too big, too raw, but I kept trying. June 14th. I turned 30. No messages from family, they didn't have my new number. Riley texted, "Happy birthday, asshole. Love you." Colleen left a cupcake at the coffee shop. 30 looks good on you. I worked, walked the beach at sunset, cried a little, not sad tears, just release. Reflected on where I'd been a year ago planning a wedding with Connor living in Austin thinking I knew who I was. Now I was alone in a city where nobody knew me. And somehow, I was okay. Not happy, not healed, but okay. July brought more work. Verdi Cosmetics project progressed smoothly. Luna Skincare sent referrals, 2 more clients. Smaller projects, $2,200 and $2,800 respectively. My personal projects evolved. Week 12, a series of digital collages about identity. Week 13, hand-lettered quotes from therapy that hit different. Week 14, photographs of empty spaces, rooms, streets, beaches, titled Invisible. Colleen looked at that one for a long time. You're not invisible anymore, you know. I'm working on it. By the end of July, I'd been in San Diego 4 months. Had a therapist, a mentor, 2 friends, a growing client list, and a bank account that wasn't scary. Had a routine morning coffee at Tidewater, work at the Commons, evening walks therapy, Thursdays, personal projects, Sundays. Had started to believe I might actually be okay. Then Harold knocked on my door. "Got a package for you. Looks official." I took it, manila envelope, no return address, postmarked Austin. My heart started racing. Inside photographs, dozens of them, and a typed letter. I stood in my doorway holding the envelope, hands shaking, stomach twisting into knots. I hadn't heard from anyone in Austin in 4 months, had blocked their numbers, changed. My email disappeared completely. So, who was sending me this? And why now, when I was finally starting to rebuild, I carried the envelope inside, set it on my table, and stared at it for 20 minutes before I could open it. When I finally did, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the edges. I was rebuilding my life, slowly, imperfectly, but rebuilding. And then that package arrived. I stared at that envelope for an hour before I found the courage to fully open it. I spread the photographs across my coffee table with trembling hands. 37 photos. All of me. All recent. Leaving my apartment building, multiple days, different outfits. At Tidewater Coffee with Colleen mid-conversation over menu proofs. Entering the Commons laptop bag over my shoulder. Outside doctor. Brennan's office, walking in for therapy. Shopping at Trader Joe's, reaching for produce. Laughing with Maya at an outdoor lunch, completely unaware. Walking alone at La Jolla Shores, hands in my pockets, lost in thought. Professional quality. Time-stamped. The past 6 weeks documented in full. I felt sick. Felt violated. Someone had been following me, tracking me, recording my new life while I'd been trying to rebuild it. The letter was typed on professional letterhead, Russo Investigations, Austin, Texas. I read it once then, twice, then a third time, my hands shaking harder with each pass. Dear Ms. Morgan, my name is Frank Russo, licensed private investigator. I was hired by Sienna Morgan Wells 6 weeks ago to locate you and document your current circumstances. I have completed that assignment and provided my client with your address and a comprehensive report. Contractually, I am not obligated to inform you of this surveillance. However, I also have 2 daughters. What I learned about your situation makes me uncomfortable. The letter continued, each paragraph worse than the last. Sienna had requested specific evidence of whether I was thriving or struggling. When Frank reported I was successfully rebuilding new business stable housing, healthy social connections, Sienna's response had been, "Perfect. That's exactly what I need." She was planning to invite me to her wedding, May 17, 2025, at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin. But I needed to understand I wasn't being invited for reconciliation. I was being invited to be displayed. She wanted to parade me as her victory look who came back to witness me marrying him. The letter detailed other findings. Mom had been asking around Austin about my whereabouts. Frank hadn't disclosed. Connor had hired his own private investigator to find me. Frank had given him false leads. Sienna had been posting edited versions of our story on social media, painting herself as the abandoned sister. I am risking my professional reputation by contacting you, Frank wrote. But there are jobs that make you feel dirty. This was one of them. If you choose to attend that wedding, Ms. Morgan, you should know what you're walking into. And if you want documentation of what actually happened, evidence of manipulation, timelines, lies, I kept copies of everything I found while investigating your background. The choice is yours. But don't walk in blind. Frank Russo, 512-555-0147. I sat in stunned silence. They'd hired someone to track me. Sienna had wanted proof that I'd either collapsed so she could pity me or was thriving so she could destroy me. And when Frank reported I was rebuilding my life, she'd been pleased my phone rang. Riley. Hey, I answered, voice hollow. You okay? You sound weird. Someone's been following me, taking pictures of me. A private investigator. What? I explained everything, the package, Frank's letter, Sienna's plan. Riley's voice went sharp with fury. That bitch! She can't just, that's gotta be illegal. I don't know if it's illegal. He's a licensed PI. She probably has some legal excuse. What are you gonna do? Good question. The old Julia would run, change cities again, disappear deeper, but something in Frank's letter had sparked something in me. If you want documentation, I kept copies of everything. Evidence, proof, truth. I'm going to fight back, I said. What? She wants me at that wedding to humiliate me. Fine, I'll go, but I'm bringing receipts. I called the number. Russo Investigations. This is Julia Morgan. I received your package. A pause. Ms. Morgan, I wasn't sure if you'd call. Why did you warn me? Because your sister bragged about her plan. She told me, I want to see her face when she realizes she can't escape us. That's not the kind of client I want to protect. You said you have documentation. What kind? Timeline of events, messages I recovered during the background check, witness statements I collected, financial records showing your sister's spending patterns around the time she got pregnant, luxury purchases made immediately after like she was celebrating. I gasped. You have proof she did this deliberately, circumstantial but compelling. She bought a $3,000 designer handbag the day after the alleged incident, posted it on Instagram, celebrating new beginnings, dated December 13th, the day after she slept with Connor. What else? Text exchanges between your sister and mother that I accessed during the investigation, legal in Texas if one party consents. And your mother gave me access to her phone records as part of the background check. They discussed managing you before you found out. They discussed managing me? Yes. Text from your mother to Sienna. She can't know yet. Wait until she's too invested to leave. Dated November 2023, 2 months before the affair. They'd planned this. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to stay upright. Frank, why are you helping me? Because I have daughters. If someone did to them what was done to you, I'd want someone to tell them the truth. My throat tightened. A stranger, someone Sienna had hired to hurt me, was showing me more loyalty than my own family ever had. What do you need from me? Frank asked. Copies of everything. Documentation, timeline, proof. I can do that. But Ms. Morgan, what's your goal here? I'm going to that wedding, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. Revenge. Justice. There's a difference. Frank was quiet for a moment. I'll compile everything. Give me 2 weeks. I'll send it through secure channels. Thank you, Frank. Don't thank me yet. This could get ugly. It's already ugly. At least now it'll be honest. I hung up and sat in the silence of my apartment. Outside, San Diego was going about its evening, people, walking, dogs, couples, heading to dinner, life happening normally. I'd spent 4 months rebuilding myself from nothing, had started to believe I could be okay. And now I knew they'd been watching me the whole time. Sienna hadn't let me go. She'd been tracking me, planning her grand finale. The invitation would come. I'd be expected to show up broken and humiliated so she could flaunt her victory in front of 200 guests. But she'd made a mistake. She'd hired Frank, and Frank had a conscience. Now I had something she didn't expect: evidence, truth, Proof that this hadn't been a tragic accident or a drunken mistake, but a calculated campaign to destroy me. I texted Riley, "I'm going to the wedding." Riley replied immediately, "Are you sure?" "Yes, but I'm not going as a victim. I'm going with ammunition." "What kind of ammunition?" "The kind that comes with receipts." I looked at the photos spread across my table. 6 weeks of my life stolen and documented. 6 weeks of rebuilding captured without my consent. I gathered them up, put them back in the envelope, and filed it away. Evidence. I'd need it later. Then I opened my laptop and started making plans. If Sienna wanted a confrontation, she'd get one. But this time, I'd be the one holding the truth. If Sienna wanted a showdown, she'd get one. But this time, I'd come armed with the truth. 2 weeks later, a secure USB drive arrived. Frank had labeled it simply, "The Truth." The drive contained a folder named Morgan Wells Investigation, Confidential. Inside, organized files professionally compiled. I opened timeline.pdf first and read through dates that now felt like scars. December 12, 2023. Connor Wells and Sienna Morgan engaged in sexual relations, confirmed via Connor's location data that Frank had legally accessed. December 13th. Sienna's Instagram post showing a designer handbag caption, "Celebrating New Beginnings." January 15th, 2024, Sienna confirmed pregnant medical records Frank had obtained. February, Sienna told Ellen text timestamps documented. February 20th. Ellen's reply text, "We need to handle this carefully. Julia can't know yet." March 3rd, family dinner the night I left. March 4th, I confronted everyone. March 5th, I left Austin. The timeline was brutal in its clarity, every step documented, every lie timestamped. I opened text_messages.pdf next. Screenshots of exchanges between Sienna and Ellen dated from November 2023 through March 2024. My hands shook as I read them. Sienna, November 15th. "I'm tired of Julia always being the favorite. Everyone thinks she's so perfect." Ellen, "Your sister works hard. You could too." Sienna, November 16th. "Or I could take what's hers, starting with Connor." Ellen, "Sienna, don't do anything stupid." Sienna, December 13th. "Too late." Ellen, "What did you do, Sienna?" "Something that will change everything. I'll tell you soon." Then, January 16th. Sienna, "I'm pregnant. It's Connor's." Ellen, "Oh, honey, what do you need?" Sienna, support. "And we need to keep Julia from finding out until I figure out my next move." Ellen, February 20th. "She can't know yet. Wait until she's too invested to leave. Too invested in what planning a wedding that would never happen. Building a life they were actively destroying. I had to stop reading, close my laptop, breathe. Financial_records.pdf showed Sienna's spending patterns around the pregnancy. December 13th, 2023. The day after sleeping with Connor, she'd purchased a Louis Vuitton bag for $3,200. December 15th, a Cartier bracelet for $4,500. Throughout January, multiple luxury purchases totaling $12,000. She'd been celebrating, marking her victory with designer trophies while I was still planning my future with Connor completely unaware. Social_media_analysis.pdf was the worst. Screenshots of Sienna's Instagram from March through July after I'd left. March 10th. Family is everything. Some people just don't understand that. April 3rd. When you finally get what you deserve. May 1st, a photo of her baby bump with Connor barely visible in the background looking miserable. June 15th. Not everyone can handle real love. Some people choose to run. She was rewriting history, making me the villain in a story where I'd been the victim, telling our narrative to thousands of followers who would never know the truth. I sat with the evidence for hours, went through every file multiple times, memorized the timeline, the texts, the patterns. This wasn't just proof of betrayal. This was proof of premeditation, a campaign to destroy me that had started 2 months before the affair even happened. I brought the USB to therapy. "I have the evidence now," I told Dr. Brennan. everything they did, everything they said. It's all documented. How does that make you feel? Vindicated and angry. They planned this. What do you want to do with this information? I'm going to the wedding, and I'm going to expose them. Dr. Brennan leaned forward. Julia, I want you to think carefully about your motivation. Is this about justice or revenge? What's the difference? Justice is about truth. Revenge is about pain. One heals you, one consumes you. I want them to know that I know. I want everyone to know what they did. And then what after you expose them, after everyone knows what happens to you? I hadn't thought that far. I don't know. That's what we need to figure out. Because Julia, you've built a good life here, a real life. Make sure exposing them doesn't cost you what you've earned. Her words stayed with me. But so did the evidence. Despite the emotional turmoil, my business continued thriving. September completed the Verde Cosmetics project, earned $15,000. October gained 3 new clients from referrals, monthly income averaging $8,000. November featured on a San Diego design blog with the headline, Local Strategist Making Waves in Brand Consulting. Riley read it and texted, "You're kind of famous now." Not yet. But yeah, it feels good. I was also invited onto a podcast about small business talking about building a freelance career. I didn't mention Austin, my family, or why I'd moved. Just said, sometimes you need a fresh start to remember what you're capable of. I started looking at houses online. With steady income, I could qualify for a mortgage. Found a small cottage in Normal Heights, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, $565,000. Saved it to my favorites. Not yet, but soon. Meanwhile, I organized Frank's evidence into a presentation. Timeline screenshots, financial records, all formatted professionally. If I was going to do this, I'd do it right. I didn't know yet how I'd use it, but I was ready. November 30th, I called Frank. I'm going to the wedding. You sure? Absolutely. And I'm bringing everything you gave me. How will you use it? I don't know yet, but I want them to know I'm holding it. I want them to know they didn't get away with it. Julia, be careful. These people have shown you who they are. I know, that's why I won't walk in unprepared. Good luck. Frank, thank you, really. Just don't let this consume you. You've rebuilt something beautiful. I hung up, looked at my evidence folder, then at my calendar. May 17th, 2025. 6 months away, 9 months since I'd left Austin broken and lost. 9 months of therapy and work and rebuilding myself from scratch. I wasn't that person anymore. Wasn't the woman who'd run away in the middle of the night with everything she owned in her car. I'd built a business, made friends, started to understand who I was without them. And now I had proof of exactly what they'd done to me. 9 months after I left, I was ready to go back. Not as the broken woman who ran, but as the one holding all the secrets. December brought rain to San Diego and a cream envelope to my mailbox. Harold handed it to me with a knowing look. Austin postmark. You okay? I will be. The envelope was exactly what I expected, cream cardstock, gold lettering, expensive. Connor Wells and Sienna Morgan request the pleasure of your company at their wedding on Saturday, May 17th, 2025 at the Driscoll Hotel, Austin, Texas. Inside was a handwritten note on Sienna's monogrammed stationery. Julia, I know this seems strange, but your family. Connor and I would love for you to celebrate with us. It would mean the world to Mom. Hope to see you there. Love, Sienna. Love. The hypocrisy was impressive. I texted a photo to Riley. Look what just arrived. Riley called immediately. She is so shameless. She wants me there. She wants to parade me around like some kind of trophy. And you're going. Oh, I'm going. But not for the reason she thinks. I filled out the response card with careful, deliberate strokes. Julia Morgan plus guest attending check. Mailed it that same afternoon, standing at the blue mailbox on the corner, watching it disappear into the slot. No turning back now. January 2025. I closed on the cottage in Normal Heights. $565,000. 10% down from my savings. Mortgage $3,100 a month, affordable with my steady income. I stood in the empty living room holding the keys and cried happy tears. This was mine, bought with money I'd earned, in a city I'd chosen. No Connor, no family approval needed, just me and the life I'd built from nothing. Riley FaceTimed within minutes of my text. Show me everything. I walked her through on video 2 bedrooms, one I'd use as an office, hardwood floors that creaked in all the right places, a small backyard perfect for morning coffee, walking distance to Tidewater. You did it, Riley said, voice choking up. You bought a real house. I bought a house. After everything they did to you, you bought a house. The accomplishment felt enormous. 14 months ago, I'd fled Austin with everything I owned in my car. Now I owned property, had equity, had roots. I painted the walls soft gray with a sage accent wall, planted a garden with succulents and herbs that could survive my questionable gardening skills. Bought furniture I actually liked, a teal velvet couch Connor would have hated, mismatched vintage chairs art from local galleries. Nothing that fit Mom's beige aesthetic, just mine. Colleen, Maya, and Chris helped me move in on a Saturday. We ordered pizza, drank wine, sat on the floor because I didn't have enough chairs yet. To new beginnings. Maya raised her glass. To fresh starts, Chris added. To Julia, Colleen said, looking right at me with those knowing eyes. Who's braver than she thinks? February. A man walked into Tidewater with rolled blueprints under his arm. Early 30s, kind eyes, easy smile, wearing a faded architecture school t-shirt. Colleen waved him over. Liam, come meet Julia. He extended his hand. Liam Henderson, architect. I designed the renovation here last year. Julia Morgan. I did the branding. I know. Colleen talks about you constantly. Colleen rolled her eyes. Because she's talented. Liam's firm is doing a sustainable housing project downtown. You two should talk shop. We did, for 2 hours. Liam was easy to talk to, not pretentious, genuinely interested in my work, shared enthusiasm about design thinking and how spaces shape human behavior. When he left, Colleen smirked. He's single, you know. I'm not looking. I didn't say you were, but he is. Just saying. March, Liam and I kept running into each other at Tidewater. Coffee turned into lunch, turned into walks around Balboa Park talking about everything and nothing. He knew I was from Texas, had moved for a fresh start, worked in brand strategy. He shared that he'd left a corporate firm in LA over ethical concerns, wanted to build sustainably, believed in purposeful work over profit. We weren't dating, just connecting in that easy way that happens when you're not trying too hard. April, I decided I needed a wedding date. Not for romance, but for armor. Liam, weird question. Shoot. Would you want to go to a wedding in Austin with me mid-May? He smiled. That is weird. Whose wedding? My ex-fiancé's. To my sister. The smile died. Wait, what? I explained the basics. Betrayal, pregnancy, leaving the invitation as psychological warfare. And you're going, why? To close a chapter, set boundaries, prove I survived. Maybe a little bit to show them I'm not the broken woman who ran. Do you need backup? I really do. I'm in. Fair warning, I'm terrible at weddings. I cry at vows, but I'm excellent at handling messy family situations. Perfect, you're hired. May 15th, 2025, I packed for Austin. An emerald dress, elegant, confident, not flashy, $425. Heels that made me feel powerful, $150. The USB with evidence tucked into my clutch. Printed copies in a portfolio folder just in case technology failed me. Riley texted, landing in Austin tomorrow morning. Ready to watch you destroy them. Liam texted, flight confirmed. This is either genius or completely insane. Both, I replied. My final therapy session with Dr. Brennan before leaving. Remember your goal. Truth, not revenge. Boundaries, not drama. You don't need their validation anymore. I know. Do you really? Yes. This isn't about making them see me. This is about making sure everyone knows who they are. That I can support. I looked at my evidence folder one last time. Timeline, messages, financial records, social media screenshots, Everything they'd done, everything they'd said, all of it documented, organized, ready. Tomorrow I'd walk back into the world I'd fled 14 months ago. But I wasn't the same woman who'd run. I'd rebuilt myself from nothing, built a business that brought in $8,000 a month, bought a house I loved, made friends who chose me without obligation, found peace in a city that asked nothing of my past, and now I had proof of exactly what they'd done to me. Not for revenge, for truth, for closure. For the girl I'd been at that dinner table who deserved to know none of it was her fault. For every moment I'd thought I was crazy, too sensitive, not enough. Tomorrow I'd face them, with evidence, with witnesses, with truth. The flight from San Diego to Austin took 2 hours, 14 months compressed into 120 minutes. The plane landed at Austin Bergstrom at 11:30 in the morning. Liam looked out the window at the Texas landscape spreading below us. So this is where you're from. Was from. Not anymore. We rented a car and drove into the city. Everything looked the same but felt different, or maybe I was different and couldn't see it the old way anymore. We passed familiar landmarks, the coffee shop where Connor and I used to meet, the park where we'd walk on Sunday mornings, the freeway exit that led to Mom's house in Hyde Park. Each one was a ghost. Liam noticed my silence. You okay? Just processing. We can turn around, fly back. You don't have to do this. I have to, for me. The hotel was the Marriott downtown, not the Driscoll that was where the wedding would be. Separate rooms, Liam had insisted. No assumptions. I'm here for support only. Thank you. We checked in, unpacked. My phone buzzed a text from an unknown number, probably Ellen with a new one. Julia, I know you're in Austin. Please call me, please. I didn't reply. Liam and I walked around downtown 6th Street, the Capitol Building, South Congress. I showed him my old life like a tour guide pointing out ruins. That's where I worked before I went freelance. That's the taco place Riley and I were obsessed with. That's the bookstore where Connor proposed Wait No, where he planned to propose. Did you love him? The question caught me off guard. I thought I did, or I loved who I thought he was. But maybe I just loved not being alone. That's honest. Therapy helps. We stopped for lunch at Torchy's Tacos. I was standing in line when I heard, Julia Morgan. Is that you? Beverly Martin. Of course. Hi, Beverly. Her eyes went immediately to Liam. And who is this? Liam Henderson. A friend. A friend. Beverly's tone put quotation marks around the word. Yes, we're here for the wedding. Oh, wonderful. Ellen said she wasn't sure you'd come, and with a date. A friend, I corrected. Of course, of course. Well, how lovely to see you tomorrow. Sienna will be so pleased. She bustled off. Liam raised an eyebrow. She's Beverly, town crier. The whole city will know I'm here within an hour. Is that a problem? No, let them know. Riley's flight landed at 3. We picked him up and he grabbed me in a hug. Let me look at you. You look good. I mean, really good. San Diego suits me. And who's this? He looked at Liam. Liam, the +1. Oh, the architect. Julia mentioned you. Liam smiled. I hope all good things. She said you're kind, which in Julia speak means she really likes you. Riley, I protested. What, I'm just being honest. We went to dinner at a Mexican restaurant far from any of my old haunts. Riley caught me up on Austin gossip. Sienna's been posting constantly. Wedding prep baby photos. Lily's actually pretty cute, unfortunately. And Connor, miserable. Everyone can see it. He barely posts anything, and when he does, he looks like a hostage. Good. Your mom's been asking around about you through mutual friends. No one knows where you are. I wanted it that way. Liam leaned forward. So, what's the plan for tomorrow? I pulled out my phone and showed them the evidence folder. I have everything. Timeline messages, financial records, social media screenshots, all organized. Riley whistled. How are you going to use it? I don't know yet, but I want them to know I'm holding it. I want them to understand I'm not the naive woman who ran anymore. We got back to the hotel at 10. Riley to his room, Liam to his, me to mine. I laid out my dress heels clutch with the USB and printed evidence inside. Reviewed the files one last time. December 2023, Sienna's Instagram post celebrating with a designer handbag. February 2024, Ellen's text about handling this carefully. The timeline showing months of premeditation. Financial records showing celebratory purchases immediately after the affair. Everything documented, professional, undeniable. My phone rang. Ellen again. Julia, please. I need to talk to you before tomorrow. There's so much I need to say to you. I turned it off. Whatever she needed to say, she'd have her chance. Tomorrow. In front of everyone. I stood at the window looking out at Austin's skyline. This city had raised me. These people had shaped me. And tomorrow I'd show them exactly what they'd created, someone strong enough to leave, brave enough to return, and smart enough to bring receipts. Tomorrow, everything would happen tomorrow. May 17th. 14 months since I'd said, challenge accepted, and walked out. Today I'd show them what I'd accepted. I put on the emerald dress at noon. Liam knocked on my door. Ready? As I'll ever be. Riley met us in the lobby. You look like you're about to win a war. That's the goal. We drove to the Driscoll, a historic hotel with a grand marble lobby and 200 guests wearing Texas formal. Valet took the car. We walked through the marble entrance toward the ballroom. A sign read, Wells Morgan Wedding, 2 p.m. My name, her name, side by side in a way that felt deeply ironic. Liam offered his arm. Together. We walked in. The ballroom was magnificent crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, chairs arranged in rows facing an altar decorated with Texas blue bonnets, ironic the state flower, symbol of a home I'd fled. Heads turned immediately. Whispers spread through the crowd like wind through grass. I saw faces I recognized, old colleagues, family friends, distant relatives. Some smiled warmly. Others looked shocked. A few looked judgmental. I kept my head high. Riley spotted reserved seats in the middle section on the left. We sat. Music started the processional. The groom entered Connor walking down the aisle with his parents. He looked older, thinner, tired. His eyes swept the crowd, then stopped on me. He actually stumbled. His mother caught his elbow. I met his gaze steadily. No smile, no frown, just looked. He couldn't look away. His groomsman, Jason, nudged him forward. Connor made it to the altar but kept glancing back at me. The bridesmaids entered Sienna's friends in dusty rose dresses, all avoiding my eyes. Then Sienna. White dress, form-fitting, showing off her post-pregnancy figure beautifully. Bouquet of white roses and baby's breath, long cathedral veil trailing behind. She walked down the aisle, smiling, saw me. Her smile froze just for a second, then widened artificially. She stared at me the entire walk, a power display, an attempt at intimidation. I stared back, calm, neutral, unafraid. She reached Connor. He was still distracted by me. Sienna gripped his hand, forcing his attention. Front row Ellen sat with Beverly and Diane Shepard. Ellen turned, saw me, and her face collapsed. Tears came immediately, hand to her mouth. I looked away. The officiant began, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." I tuned out most of it, focused on breathing, on staying present, on remembering why I was here. The vows came. Connor's voice shook. "Sienna, you've given me something I never expected, a family, a future. I promise to be the man you deserve." Who was he trying to convince Sienna's vows? "Connor, you chose me, you chose US, and I promise to never let you forget how much that means." Her eyes flicked to me on "chose me." Message received. The officiant, "If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever. Hold your peace." Silence. Riley whispered, "This is your moment." I whispered back, "Not yet." The officiant, "I pronounce you husband and wife." They kissed. Brief. Awkward. Connor's eyes squeezed shut like he was trying to disappear. The recessional, they walked back up the aisle. Sienna beaming, Connor looking like a man walking to his execution. As they passed my row, Connor's eyes found mine again. Regret, longing, desperation. I felt nothing. Guests moved to the cocktail area, open bar, past appetizers, a jazz quartet playing. Riley, Liam, and I clustered together. People approached. An old colleague, "Julia, oh my God, how are you?" "I'm great, living in San Diego now." "I heard brand consulting, right? That's amazing." More small talk, surface level. Everyone curious but too polite to ask directly about the elephant in the room. I saw Connor and Sienna across the room greeting guests. Sienna kept glancing at me, whispering something to Connor. Connor looked like he wanted to approach, but Sienna's grip on his arm prevented it. Beverly circulated spreading gossip I could tell by the way people looked at me after she passed. Then Ellen approached. She looked older than 14 months ago. Grayer hair, thinner, deeper lines around her eyes. "Julia," I turned. "Mrs. Ellen." She flinched when I used her name instead of Mom. "Can we talk, please?" Liam squeezed my hand in support. I looked at Riley. "I'll be right back." "Riley, we'll be watching." Ellen led me to a quiet corner near the terrace doors, separated from the crowd. We stood facing each other. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "I don't know where to start." "How about the truth?" I suggested. "I've been trying to reach you for months. I changed my number multiple times. I know you needed space. But Julia, there's so much I need to tell you. So much I should have said years ago." "I'm listening." My hand rested on my clutch, inside the USB, the evidence, the truth. She didn't know yet. We found a quiet corner. Mom looked older than I remembered, smaller, or maybe I'd grown bigger. Mom opened her mouth to apologize, but before she could, Sienna found us. Well, well. The prodigal daughter and the guilty mother. How touching. She stood there with a champagne glass in hand, her third, fourth slightly unsteady on her heels. Ellen stepped forward. "Sienna, not now." "Not now. Then when Mom? When is the appropriate time to acknowledge that she's here?" Sienna's voice was already rising. I turned to face her fully. "Congratulations on the wedding, Sienna." She laughed sharp and bitter. "Do you mean that, or are you just being polite? Does it matter?" "No, I guess not." She drained the glass. "I'm glad you came. I wanted you to see this. My perfect wedding, my perfect husband, my perfect daughter. Lily's beautiful. I saw the photos online. You still follow me." "Hard not to. You post constantly." Sienna smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Still keeping tabs on me, just observing. "You know why I invited you. Frank told you, didn't he? People nearby were starting to turn, sensing a confrontation brewing. Frank told me. Good, I wanted him to tell you. I wanted you to know that I was watching, that I could find you anywhere." Her voice was getting louder, drawing more attention. A circle was forming around us. Guests drawn to the drama like moths to flame. Sienna continued, emboldened by the audience. "You thought you could just leave, just disappear, and start over." "I did start over," I said calmly, "in San Diego, with your little business, your little friends, your little life. It's a good life." "Is it better than this?" She gestured wildly at the ballroom. "Better than family?" "Yes, significantly better." Sienna's face flushed red. "You self-righteous bitch!" Ellen grabbed Sienna's arm. "Sienna, stop!" Sienna whirled on her. "No, you wanted me to invite her. You wanted to heal the rift. Well, here she is. Let's see if she dares tell everyone the truth." I kept my voice level. "What truth?" Sienna turned to the growing crowd playing to them. "That she's adopted, that she's not even real family, that Mom took her in out of pity." "Sienna, enough!" Ellen's voice cracked. "Why?" Sienna spun back to me. "You need to know your place. You always acted like you were better than me, but you're nothing. You're not even a real Morgan." I reached into my clutch, pulled out my phone. "Actually, Sienna, let's talk about truth." I held up my phone so everyone could see. "I have something I'd like to show everyone." Sienna faltered. What? I looked around the ballroom, spotted the large TV screen they'd been using for wedding photos. Does that screen have Wi-Fi? The AV technician nearby nodded hesitantly. Yes. Can I connect my phone? He looked at the chaos unfolding at the crowd of 200 guests watching, then back at me. Sure. Within 30 seconds, my phone screen was mirrored on the 60-inch display. Everyone could see. I opened my presentation. Timeline of events. December 2023 to May 2025. I clicked to the first slide. December 12th, 2023. Connor Wells and Sienna Morgan engaged in sexual intercourse. The location data appeared Connor's address in Hyde Park. Shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. Connor went pale. Next slide. December 13th, 2023, Sienna's Instagram post. The screenshot filled the screen, a designer handbag caption reading, "Celebrating New Beginnings." Below it, the financial record, Louis Vuitton bag purchased $3,200. I narrated calmly like I was presenting to a client. Within 24 hours of sleeping with my fiancé, Sienna purchased a $3,200 bag to celebrate. Sienna's voice cracked. That's not... Next slide. Text messages, November 16th, 2023. The screenshot showed Sienna's text to Ellen, or I could take what's hers, starting with Connor. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Ellen's face was bloodless. Next slide. Text messages, February 20th, 2024. Ellen's response to Sienna, "She can't know yet. Wait until she's too invested to leave." I let that sink in. They planned to manage me, to control when I found out, to trap me. Next slide. Financial records, December 2023 through January 2024. A list of Sienna's luxury purchases appeared: bracelet, shoes, spa treatments, dinners. Total $12,000. She wasn't devastated by the affair. She was celebrating. Next slide. Social media timeline, March through July 2024. Screenshots of Sienna's posts filled the screen. Posts about family being everything. Posts about people who run away. Posts painting herself as the abandoned sister. After I left, she posted these. Made me the villain. Made herself the victim. Final slide. Private investigator, June through July 2024. The photos of me in San Diego appeared. Walking to Tidewater, entering the Commons, at Dr. Brennan's office, the summary of Frank Russo's report. She hired a PI to stalk me, to document my new life, not because she cared, because she wanted ammunition. I looked directly at Sienna. You wanted everyone to know the truth. Here it is. Silence. Absolute deafening silence. 200 people staring at the screen, at Sienna, at Ellen, at Connor. Sienna stood, frozen tears streaming down her face, mascara running in black streaks. Connor stepped forward. Julia, Keep it, I said. Ellen reached for me. I'm sorry. I know. I disconnected my phone, put it back in my clutch, looked at them one last time. Challenge accepted. Challenge completed. I walked toward the exit. Riley and Liam fell into step beside me. Behind us, chaos began to erupt. Voices, rising phones coming out the crowd, fragmenting into shocked conversations. Beverly stood in stunned silence for once. Connor's parents looked horrified. Diane Shepherd was shaking her head. Old colleagues watched with wide eyes. Sienna collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Ellen tried to follow. Wait, please. I didn't stop. Through the ballroom, through the marble lobby to the valet stand. Our car arrived. I got in. Liam drove. Riley sat in back. We pulled away from the Driscoll. Downtown Austin passed by the windows familiar streets that no longer felt like home. Riley broke the silence. Holy shit. Liam glanced at me. That was incredible. I sat with my hands folded in my lap, watching the city blur past. You okay? Riley asked. I don't know yet. The drive to the Marriott took 5 minutes. We parked, walked through the lobby, rode the elevator up in silence. At my room door, Riley asked, Want company? I think I need to be alone for a bit. Liam squeezed my shoulder. "We're right here if you need us." I nodded and went inside, sat on the bed. My phone was buzzing texts, calls from blocked numbers. I turned it off. Looked at my clutch with the USB still tucked inside, the evidence that had changed everything, 14 months of planning culminating in 10 minutes. I stood and walked to the window, looked out at Austin's skyline. The city that had raised me, broken me, tried to trap me. I'd come back, told the truth, and walked away. Not as a victim, but as someone who'd survived. Not for revenge, but for justice. Not to hurt them, but to finally free myself. I'd come back to close a chapter. I left having rewritten the ending entirely. We got back to the hotel before I started shaking. The car ride back lasted 5 minutes. None of us spoke. Riley sat in the back, her hand resting on my shoulder like an anchor. Liam drove his knuckles white on the steering wheel, and I stared out the window at Austin blurring past the city I'd fled 14 months ago, the city that no longer felt like mine. We pulled into the Marriott's parking garage, took the elevator up, and it wasn't until the doors slid shut and we were alone in that small metal box that my body finally understood what I'd just done. My knees buckled. Riley caught me before I hit the floor. "I've got you." She whispered, her arms wrapping around me tight. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't grip the railing. Liam pressed the button for the lobby bar without asking. "She needs a drink." "We all do." We stumbled into a corner booth away from the handful of businessmen nursing beers at the counter. Liam ordered 3 whiskeys neat, no ice, no questions. Riley slid into the booth beside me, her shoulder pressed against mine, grounding me. The bartender brought the glasses over and I couldn't even lift mine. My fingers wouldn't cooperate. Liam reached over and steadied the glass for me, guiding it to my lips. Drink. Slow. The whiskey burned, but it helped. One sip, then another, and finally my breath started to even out. "Did I really just do that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You did." Riley confirmed, her eyes shining with something between awe and worry. "You put every single receipt up on a 60-inch screen in front of 200 people. It was magnificent." Sienna's face was the face of someone who just got caught. Finally caught. And Ellen. Caught too. All of them. Liam set his glass down and looked at me with something I couldn't quite name. "Honestly, you kept it together better than I would have. If that were me, I'd have been a wreck." I was a wreck, just on the inside. We sat in silence, drinking. My phone started vibrating on the table, a steady buzz that wouldn't stop. Messages from numbers I didn't recognize, old friends, acquaintances, people who'd been at the wedding. I scrolled through a few, "Oh my God, Julia, you're so brave. Everyone's talking about what you did." Sienna left in tears. Connor's at the hotel bar looking destroyed. "Your mom is asking everyone how to reach you." I kept scrolling, my stomach twisting with each new message. From a former co-worker, "I always knew something was off about the whole thing. You did the right thing exposing the truth." From a distant relative, "Beverly Martin is busy spreading the word, but everyone's on your side." From someone I didn't recognize, "This is Jason Connor's groomsman. I'm sorry for everything. He never deserved you." Then a message from an unknown number, definitely Ellen, with yet another new phone. "Julia, Mom understands if you hate her. Mom understands if you never want to see her again, but please know this mom is proud of you. Mom aches for her own failures, but Mom is proud of the woman you became without us. You were right about everything. Mom." I stared at it, reading it twice, 3 times. Riley read over my shoulder, her breath warm against my ear. "Are you going to respond?" "Not now, maybe never, but..." I saved the number. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was just acknowledgement that she tried. Liam leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "What about Connor and Sienna? What about them? Do you feel vindicated, satisfied, anything?" I thought about it, really thought about it. The whiskey was loosening something in my chest, something that had been locked tight for months. "I feel complete, Like I finished something that needed finishing, not revenge, just truth. That's healthy, Liam said quietly. Dr. Brennan would be proud, I said, managing a weak smile. Riley squeezed my hand. So what's the plan? We fly home Sunday, right? I want to change it to tomorrow, earliest flight out. Done. I'll book it right now. By 8 o'clock, we'd ordered room service to my room burgers and fries that none of us had the appetite to finish. Riley and Liam eventually headed to their own rooms, leaving me alone with the city lights of Austin spread out below my window like fallen stars. I stood there for a long time, my arms wrapped around myself, watching the glow. Somewhere out there, Sienna was dealing with the fallout with 200 witnesses to her manipulation with Connor with herself. Connor was realizing that his mistakes always came with a price tag he couldn't dodge with charm or apologies. Ellen was sitting with her guilt, probably alone in that house that used to be mine, wondering if she'd ever be able to repair what she'd broken. And me, I was free. Really, completely free. Not just physically, I'd left 14 months ago, driven 3 states away to build something new, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I didn't need their approval anymore. Didn't need their love. Didn't need them to understand what they'd done to me, what they'd taken from me. They knew now. Everyone knew. And that was enough. I pulled out my journal, The One Doctor. Brennan had suggested I start keeping during those first terrible weeks in San Diego, when I could barely write a sentence without tears smudging the ink. Tonight, my hand didn't shake. I wrote May 17th, 2025. Today I went back to Austin, not to beg, not to plead, not to make them see me. I went back to show them proof. Evidence of the lies, the manipulation, the choices they made. And when Sienna tried to humiliate me publicly, I did what I should have done. 14 months ago, I told the truth, not for revenge, but for closure. Everyone knows now what they did, who they are, how they treated me, and I don't need anything else from them. Tomorrow, I go home, my real home, San Diego, challenge accepted, challenge completed, challenge overcome. I closed the journal, set it on the nightstand, and felt something in my chest loosen like a stone I'd been carrying for too long, finally being set down. I packed my suitcase with mechanical precision, folding each piece of clothing with care. The emerald dress, the dress I'd worn walking into that ballroom like a warrior, went back into its garment bag, zipped up tight. The USB with all the evidence went into my carry-on, backed up in 3 separate places. Frank had taught me well about protecting important data. The printed receipts went into a manila folder, each page organized chronologically. Truth documented, truth presented, truth witnessed. I set my alarm for 5 in the morning. Flight at 8:30, a US to SAN, Austin to San Diego, past to future. I texted Riley and Liam, pick up at 6. Both replied almost immediately, we're ready. I lay in bed staring up at the ceiling with its shadows cast by streetlights filtering through the curtains. I thought I'd feel something? Victory, anger, sadness. Instead, I just felt peace, simple, quiet, profound peace. They couldn't hurt me anymore. They couldn't define who I was. They couldn't take away what I'd built, the life in San Diego, the work, the friendships, the house with hardwood floors and a little backyard. My phone buzzed one more time. Riley, proud of you. Sleep well. Tomorrow we go home. I smiled, the first real smile I'd had all day. Home, not Austin with its painful memories and broken family. San Diego, where people knew me as Julia the strategist, Julia the friend, Julia the homeowner. Not Julia, the adopted daughter, Julia, the betrayed fiancée, Julia, the invisible sister. Just Julia. I turned off the light, pulled the covers up, and closed my eyes. One last thought echoed through my mind before sleep came. Tomorrow I'm going home. My real home. San Diego. Morning came early. I woke at 4:45, 15 minutes before my alarm, and lay there watching the ceiling fade from black to gray as dawn crept through the hotel curtains. I couldn't fall back asleep. My body was ready to leave even if my mind was still processing. I pulled on my sneakers, grabbed my jacket, and slipped out of the room without waking anyone. The streets of downtown Austin were still asleep silent except for the occasional delivery truck rumbling past. The sky was breaking open in shades of pink and gold, that particular Texas dawn that used to make my heart swell. I walked without destination, just moving through the city one last time. Past the Capitol building, still impressive with its pink granite glowing in the early light. Past the coffee shop where Connor first kissed me, now replaced by a boutique selling overpriced leather goods. Past the park where I used to run every Saturday morning, still beautiful with its ancient live oaks draped in Spanish moss. Austin hadn't changed. I had. These streets used to feel like home, familiar, safe mine. Now they felt like a museum, beautiful, but belonging to someone else's history. I found a 24-hour cafe near the river, ordered black coffee, and sat outside on the patio. 6 o'clock. The city was starting to wake. Joggers appeared on the trail. A homeless man pushed a shopping cart past, nodding at me. Birds began their morning chorus. Julia. I looked up. Ellen stood there, coffee cup in her own hand, looking like she hadn't slept either. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked smaller than I remembered. "Are you following me?" I asked, not unkindly, just curious. "No, I couldn't sleep. I've been walking since 4. This is one of my regular stops." She gestured to the empty chair across from me. "May I?" I nodded. She sat down carefully like she was afraid I might bolt. We didn't speak for a long moment. Just 2 women drinking coffee as the sun came up over the river. "You're leaving this morning," she finally said. It wasn't a question. "I am, back to San Diego. It's a good city. I looked it up after you left. I wanted to know where you'd gone." "Oh, why Frank didn't tell you." "He refused. He's a good man. Very professional." Another silence. I watched a kayaker glide past on the river, their paddle catching the early light. Ellen cleared her throat. "What you did yesterday, I deserved it. Every bit of it." "Yes, you did." "I started therapy in July, after Frank first contacted me asking questions about you. It made me realize how badly I'd failed." She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup like she needed the warmth. "I've been seeing Dr. Patricia Lyons twice a week, working through everything, the guilt, the favoritism, why I made the choices I made. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm trying, not to win you back, I don't deserve that, but to be better, to understand where I went wrong." I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, needed cream, but I drank it anyway. "You chose Sienna over me, again and again, for 27 years. "I did. And because she was your biological daughter and I wasn't." "Yes, and that's inexcusable. Biology shouldn't determine love, but in my weakness, I let it." I appreciated the honesty. No excuses. No justifications. Just acknowledgement. "What happens next?" I asked. "With you and Sienna?" Ellen sighed, looking out at the river. "I've set boundaries. Told her I can't enable her anymore. She's furious with me, says I betrayed her by not stopping you yesterday." "You couldn't have stopped me." "I know, and honestly, I didn't want to. You deserved to speak." "What about Connor?" "They're still married, for now, but it's hard. He's realizing what he lost. Too late, of course." "That's his problem." "Julia." She turned to face me fully. "I know I have no right to ask this, but can I call you sometimes not to intrude, just to know you're okay?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to cut her off completely to protect myself from any more disappointment. But another part, the part that doctor Brennan had been working with for months, knew that closure didn't always mean cutting people off forever. Sometimes it just meant setting boundaries. "Give me 6 months," I said finally. "After that, maybe. But Ellen, I'm not coming back to Austin. I'm not rejoining this family. That chapter is closed." "I understand. If you want to be part of my life, it has to be on my terms. Boundaries, distance, respect. I'll accept whatever you're willing to give." We stood to leave. Ellen looked at me with wet eyes. "Can I hug you?" "Not yet." "Okay." We walked together for half a block, then our paths diverged. Ellen headed toward her house in Hyde Park. I headed back toward the hotel. "Julia," she called after me. I turned. "You're extraordinary. I should have told you that every single day. I'm sorry I didn't." I nodded, then kept walking. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. She'd hurt me. She knew it. She'd said it. That was more than I'd expected. Back at the hotel, Riley and Liam were waiting in the lobby with coffee and breakfast tacos from a place down the street. "Ready?" Riley asked, reading my face. "So ready." We drove to the airport in Liam's rental, returned it at the lot, and took the shuttle to the terminal. Check-in was smooth. Security was quick. We found our gate with 30 minutes to spare. I bought a bottle of water and a magazine I wouldn't read. Boarding began at 8:30. I chose the window seat. Riley took the middle. Liam had the aisle. The plane pushed back from the gate, taxied to the runway, and lifted into the air. Austin grew smaller and smaller beneath us. The river, the capital, the sprawl of highways and neighborhoods. I watched until I couldn't see it anymore. Then I closed my eyes and leaned my head against the window. Riley squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. We didn't need words. 2 hours later, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Welcome to San Diego. Local time is 9:47 in the morning. California sunshine, Pacific breeze, home." Liam drove us from the airport in his car, which he'd left in long-term parking. We dropped Riley at her apartment in North Park. She hugged me tight before getting out. "Call me tonight," she said. "I will." Then Liam drove me to my house in Normal Heights. He pulled up to the curb, turned off the engine, and looked at me. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you, Liam, for everything." "Anytime. I mean that." He drove away. I unlocked my front door and stepped inside. My house, my space, my sanctuary. I unpacked my suitcase, hung the emerald dress in the back of the closet where I wouldn't have to look at it every day, and put the USB with all the evidence in my small safe, along with my passport and birth certificate. Then I sat down on my couch, the same couch I'd bought at a secondhand store 3 months after moving here. I let out a long, slow breath. It was done. Really completely done. I'd gone back. I'd faced them. I'd told the truth. And now I was home. One thought settled into my mind, clear and certain. 6 months from now, I'll barely remember the pain. But I'll always remember the strength it took to walk away twice. November in San Diego meant morning fog and afternoon sunshine. 6 months after Austin, I was exactly where I needed to be. I sat on my back patio with my morning coffee laptop open, working on a pitch deck for a sustainable fashion startup founded by 2 women who reminded me of my younger self, ambitious, creative, and a little uncertain. I'd send it off this afternoon with the confidence that they'd love it. My business had grown beyond anything I'd imagined back in those early San Diego days when I could barely function monthly income steady at $12,000 to $15,000. 6 regular clients with a waiting list for new projects. An office, a small space downtown shared with 2 other freelancers. I'd left the commons behind when I outgrew the co-working setup. An assistant Nina, part-time handling admin work. Turned out I could delegate after all. A speaking engagement booked for January at a design conference in LA. But more than the business numbers, my life had truly bloomed. The house finally felt like home. Furniture chosen deliberately, not hastily. The garden thriving with succulents and native plants that didn't demand too much water. The guest room set up properly. Riley had stayed last month when she came to try on bridesmaid dresses. Friendships deepening. Maya and I hiked every Sunday morning starting at Torrey Pines and working our way through every trail in the county. Chris and I co-worked every Friday at a cafe in Little Italy, pushing each other's creative work. Colleen still made me bring in personal projects I did so happily, even proudly. Riley was getting married in April to Sam, an ER nurse with kind eyes and steady hands. I was her maid of honor. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, but this time the wedding would be joyful, honest, built on truth instead of lies. And Liam and I had dinner twice a week. Sometimes at his place, sometimes at mine. We'd progressed from friends to something more. Slowly, carefully. No rush, no pressure. Just two people who'd both been through things, learning to trust again. Last week, he'd kissed me goodnight at my door, soft and tentative. I'd kissed him back. We hadn't talked about what it meant. We didn't need to. It was enough to just be. My phone lit up with a text from Ellen. I'd unblocked her in August after the 6 months I'd asked for. Thinking of you today. Hope November is treating you well. Mom. We texted once or twice a month now, mostly surface level. She'd send pictures of her garden. I'd mention work projects, nothing deep, but a connection nonetheless. In September, she'd sent, Sienna and Connor have separated. He moved out. She's struggling. I'd replied, I'm sorry to hear that. And I meant it. Not with vindication, just human compassion. Their unhappiness didn't make me happy. It just made me grateful I wasn't part of it anymore. Ellen had asked once if she could visit San Diego. I'd said, not yet, maybe next year. She'd accepted that. Progress. Slow. Imperfect. But progress. Therapy with Dr. Brennan was down to monthly sessions instead of weekly. Last session, she'd asked, do you still think about Austin? Sometimes, but not with pain anymore. Just distance. Like watching a movie I used to star in. That's significant growth. I know. What do you think made the difference? I'd thought about it carefully before answering. Austin didn't change. I did. And once I changed, Austin couldn't define me anymore. Doctor. Brennan had smiled at that, the kind of smile that said I'd finally gotten it. The fundamental truth she'd been trying to help me see all along. You can't change other people. You can only change how much power you give them over your life. I'd stopped giving Austin power, and in doing so, I'd claimed power over my own story. I opened my journal, the same one I'd kept since May, flipped back to the first entry written in that tiny studio apartment in April 2024. I don't know who I am anymore. Then flipped forward to yesterday's entry, November 11th, 2025. Today was ordinary. Coffee with Liam. Work on pitch deck, grocery shopping, watering the garden. Called Riley about bridesmaid dress fittings. Ordinary, but extraordinary because it's mine. 6 months ago, I stood in front of 200 people and laid out evidence of betrayal. Not for revenge, for truth. And you know what I learned. The moment I stopped needing their validation was the moment I became truly free. Sienna's question, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. She was right. In that world, I was already invisible. So I disappeared, and I built a world where I'm seen. Not because I'm perfect, not because I'm successful, but because I'm present. Present in my authentic, imperfect self. The challenge was never to prove I mattered to them. It was to discover that I matter to myself. And I do, I really do. I closed the journal smiling. That entry captured something I couldn't have articulated 6 months ago or even 6 weeks ago. The understanding that self-worth isn't given, it's claimed. I'd spent 27 years waiting for Ellen to choose me, for Sienna to see me as a sister, for Connor to love me enough. But none of them could give me what I hadn't given myself permission to take up space, to matter, to exist without apology. San Diego had taught me that. Or maybe I'd taught myself that and San Diego had just provided the space to do it. My phone buzzed. Liam. Dinner tonight, I'm cooking. Me. What are you making? Liam. It's a surprise. 7. Me. See you then. I looked around my patio, the plants I'd chosen, the furniture I'd bought, the view I woke up to every morning. This life wasn't perfect. I still had hard days. Still sometimes missed the idea of family. Still felt the loss of what could have been. But I didn't miss them. I didn't miss the feeling of shrinking myself to fit their expectations. I didn't miss feeling invisible. I'd built something better, a life where I didn't have to disappear to be seen, where my presence was cherished, not tolerated, where I was enough exactly as I was. I thought about Sienna's words one last time. If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. She'd been wrong. When I disappeared, I noticed. I noticed what it felt like to breathe without asking permission, to create without seeking approval, to exist without apologizing. I noticed what it felt like to build a life on my own terms, with people who chose me deliberately, not out of obligation or guilt. I noticed that home isn't a place you're born into, it's a place you create for yourself. And I'd created a good one. The challenge had been accepted. The challenge had been completed. The challenge had been overcome. Not because I'd defeated them or proven them wrong, but because I'd learned the most fundamental truth I didn't need to. Their opinions, their choices, their failures, none of it defined me anymore. I defined myself, and that was the greatest victory of all. And to you listening to this story, remember this family betrayal cuts deeper than any other wound because it comes from those who were supposed to protect you. When I faced family betrayal from my own mother and sister, I nearly lost myself. But God had other plans. He whispered to me in that dark studio apartment, "You are seen. You are loved. You matter." When the world told me I was invisible, God reminded me I was His masterpiece. Don't make my mistake. Don't wait 27 years to set boundaries. Don't shrink yourself to fit into spaces where you were never meant to belong. I thought family revenge would heal me, exposing them, proving my worth, making them see what they'd lost. But true healing didn't come from family revenge. It came from walking away and building something new. God didn't call me to destroy them. He called me to free myself. There's a difference between justice and family revenge, between truth-telling and vengeance. Looking back, I see God's hand in every part of this journey. The family betrayal that broke me the strength to leave the people who caught me when I fell. He took my deepest pain and transformed it into purpose. If you're in a toxic family situation right now, hear this. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. You are allowed to choose peace over proximity. You are allowed to build a family that chooses you back. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts. Your words might encourage someone who needs to hear they're not alone. Consider subscribing to this channel for more stories about resilience and transformation. And please share this with someone who might need the reminder that they are worthy of better. Thank you for listening to the very end. I'm honored you stayed with me through this journey. Disclaimer. The stories on this channel contain fictionalized elements created for educational purposes. If this content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that better suit your preferences.